Garrett's mic has been going a little weird right now, so we'll see what happens. He might have to dip out if his mic's having too many problems. But of course, today we are going to be talking about, and I pretty much have standard stuff for Orisa, and that's just because I save up my credits a little too much for events stuff, and she doesn't get a lot of event stuff so far. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about Orisa, and if you're watching on Twitch, I have a YouTube channel that this goes on to. If you're watching on YouTube, I am live streaming this live every Friday at 5:30, and so we're going to be covering Orisa, and what we're going to be covering about today. Yes, audio works. Thanks, Thesis. Yeah, so what we're going to be covering today is Orisa, and what's interesting is in my opinion, a lot of people play Orisa badly. They don't really play her as optimal as they could. And honestly, I don't think I've seen anyone that really plays her like they should. A lot of the times you can tell, even in Overwatch League, people will play her like Reinhardt, and she's not meant to be Reinhardt. She's meant to be Orisa. So, Orisa, whatever. Yeah, so we're going to cover a couple things. First of all is you have we'll just go through abilities and then talk about like structure. So first of all, her gun has 150 bullets, which is pretty good, and of course is a rapid fire. Has probably the slowest reload speed out of anyone. So it's a little awkward to reload, but the plus side is you have 150 to just shoot, and you'll start to be able to hear. Right. Yeah, so you can hear in the last like 20 bullets you have, so you don't really need to keep track.
Hello.
So all of that's good. You can just kind of play it by sound if you don't want to play it by actually counting. One thing that Garrett is pointing out to me, probably unintentionally, is she has no self-healing ability, which in a lot of cases can be a problem. Sustain isn't really there that much. But yeah. So next thing, of course, so her gun does about, I believe, 10 damage a bullet. They changed it a while back from 12 to 10, I believe. So it's 10 damage per bullet. And if there is any fall-off damage, it is almost unnoticeable. I tested it, and there was even cases where I got a faster time to kill on long range. But the big thing is, and the big stress that people have, is the bloom, which honestly isn't that bad. You see a lot worse on Soldier over time. That's, of course, Soldier's, as if he's not burst firing, you see a lot worse with Soldier. But you can see we're hitting, if we're right here, and Garrett, if you could actually go over there, thank you. But as you can see, if he keeps going backwards, as if he was rounding that corner, our entire bloom actually is his size. So you're not going to run into a lot of the time, so the range is just bad overall. She's pretty good at range. Yes, there's a bloom and all that stuff, but the thing is what she can do with her shots at long range still has a very big value to it, even though you have a bloom. So I like using her as ranged tank, which is kind of good. Yeah, you can see we can get out consistent damage with all that 150, and you can just sit there and shoot. It's pretty nice. But yeah, next thing up is her Fortify, which of course lasts for 5 seconds. You take half damage while fortified, and also I believe it's an 8-second cooldown. But during that time, yes, so during that time you can, I was trying to remember which ability has the bug. This one's not the one. But yeah, so Fortify, over that time, while you have Fortify active, you take half damage, of course, and you're immune from CC abilities, which is nice. So, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, people don't use Fortify as much as they should.
Yeah. The thing that people don't realize, is it pretty much effectively gives you 800 one-shot health. And I'm counting 800 one-shot as she can take 800 damage instantly. Minus the armor, of course. The armor isn't played into that very much. But besides that, pretty darn good. Next part is her shield, which is probably the most complicated out of all of them on usage and stuff. But pretty decent. You can see that we were able to hit a Flying Mercy with the gun as well. We're going to cover that when we're with strategy. Her shield has 900 hit points, which is pretty darn good. To put into perspective, Winston has 600 hit points on his barrier. Who cares about Symmetra? And of course, you can put it on moving targets like this. And it's pretty nice there. You can put it on basketballs, which is kind of cheeky. This is kind of entertaining just as a mobile shield. We'll cover mobile shields as well. And then Reinhardt's barrier, of course, is 2,000 hit points. And the difference between Orisa's and Reinhardt's barrier is actually very interesting. To win a shield war against a Reinhardt, there's a couple things you need to do. So Reinhardt's shield works as an absolute shield. And of course we all know that only a Sith deals in absolutes. Where, since he has to put it down to recharge, whenever someone's trying to destroy the shield, they're trying to destroy the shield up to the point, and then once that point reaches, then they're good. Whereas Orisa's shield is more as like a rate of time, where it will constantly come back, and so you have shield over time as opposed to Reinhardt's, which is just shield. So all of that stuff kind of works, and I'm kind of just hanging around here. So yeah, that's pretty much the deal with the barrier. It is a projectile, but it does not get eaten by Diva, which is nice. Pretty good. It's fairly wide, and of course is one-sided, so it doesn't work like Winston's bubble, but it is a mix between Winston's bubble and Reinhardt's shield, which is pretty good. It doesn't fit like doorways as much as Reinhardt. Reinhardt is almost built to, but you can see it does a pretty good job since they updated it. So that's pretty good. But of course, there is some strategies to it. Since it lasts for 20 seconds, so the barrier will stay up for 20 seconds. We'll just let it go away, Garrett, if you could stop shooting it real quick so we can see. And it just, boom, goes away. So strategy is at the beginning of a match, before everyone comes out, you do this, and you just kind of wait there. And you see our cooldown starts immediately as we throw it, but as it hits, that's when the 20-second counter is going. By the way, if anyone's watching right now is going like, yeah, we know all this stuff, wait till we get to the strategy side. This is just introductory. So yeah, you can do that, and once it hits, you can toss another one up in the air and basically complete the cycle. And so you can have a barrier up pretty consistently. You do see as well, though, is that it tends to lean towards the back side. So what you want to do is you want to throw it up farther than it actually is going to be. So that's pretty nice there. And you can see we have the cooldown going down, but it hasn't been active yet. So you can do that. On the other side, and that's pretty hard because you have to kind of pre-plan when you want the barrier. The base one that people are going to do most of the time is just boom, drop barrier straight down. You have a faster rate of it hitting, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that's the stuff with the barrier.
And we'll come back to the barrier, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole lot more strategy involved with the barrier.
Oh yeah. And we'll also switch maps to do stuff with the barrier as well. because the barrier is probably the hardest thing to deal with Orisa. Probably the hardest part of her kit. So yeah. Next, moving on to Halt. This is the one that has the bug. And I don't know if I'm able to like see it. Okay, 8's the first number we saw. There is a bug going around where her cooldown actually has the wrong time. 8. You can slightly see, so it wavers between 9 and 8. And that's the big thing that people are having problems with, is the Orisa barrier kind of alternates in between. That's what I've heard. I haven't noticed it personally. Yeah, so that was a little bit earlier. You could still see the 9, but it was a little bit earlier than that. Yeah, so they might have fixed in the last patch. Just be aware of it. But yeah, I'll constantly be trying to test it out. That's why I said I couldn't remember which one was bugged or not. So far, I haven't been seeing any troubles with it with my testing today. But we might end up seeing like the number 9 pop up. And that's when we would know that something's up with Halt. Halt has a range very similar to Ana's Nade, which is pretty good. Of course, it will pull people through walls. It does not pull people through barriers, which is pretty nice. An Unseen Orisa is the deadliest Orisa. Yeah, if my aim wasn't trash. So yeah, that's the stuff with Halt. It pulls everyone to Halt, which is pretty nice, and you can use it as just kind of to pull people around, stuff like that. It's kind of weird. It's very similar to Roadhog's Hook, but it does not deal damage. But it does kind of slow people. So when people get pulled, there is like a misnomer, is that when people get pulled, or well, when the string, you see the green string attaches, that it slows people down. That's a misnomer. It doesn't actually work that way. It does slow you down once it pulls. So it pulls and then kind of keeps you there, and that's how that kind of works. So that's with Halt. Positioning with Halt, a good thing you would like to do is to pull people off ledges, which is pretty nice. And what you want to do is you don't want to give yourself too much of, so you don't want to be too far back. So the farther back you are, the harder it is, because of course depth perception isn't there in Overwatch. But it's nicer to do stuff like this, or to angle yourself. To angle yourself like this, and then you know. But you want to wait till you see the string, and good. It's a lot harder to judge distance this way. It can still happen. You can actually learn, but the easiest way is just do this, and it's pretty consistent each time.
Thanks.
So yeah, that's all the stuff there with Halt. My suggestion is pulling down. I like using it to pull people out of stuff. Sometimes it's just better to throw it above people and pull them up into the air, just to disorient them. If you don't have a specific thing to do with Halt, that's usually the best. And of course, we'll cover other strategies that will change that. Next, moving on. And by the way, if anyone has any questions, I can go ahead and take questions if you have any of them. Put them in the comments in the chat. YouTube, I will get back to you later, pretty much. Okay, so Ultimate. Bongo. I believe this is the one that does not have that can't get canceled. So I don't think this one can be canceled. I know they're toying with that. I can't remember if it does go in completely. It lasts for, I believe, 15 seconds, and then it goes away, which is nice. And I got to farm you for ult. Sorry. Poor Garrett. I'm just like farming him for ult right now. But yeah, it charges fairly slow and falls under what I call a supplementary ult, which basically means that it doesn't do the job that a defensive ult wants you to do, like counter and ultimate. It does not displace anyone, so it's not like a CC ult.
Not so fast.
And all that kind of good stuff. Oh, also Fortify stops Doomfist punch and Reinhardt's charge. So Garrett, charge whenever you want to.
Standing ground.
So you can start there, and if you train your reaction
You're
time,
not getting away.
it can get pretty good. You can do pretty good at that kind of stuff. I do not like going down all the way with Orisa's ammo. I'm not a big fan of getting that charged all the way down. Spinning as Reinhardt does not work. If you didn't know that, it's fun. It doesn't work too much. It's good for DPI testing, of course. So yeah, we'll wait for the ultimate to come back. Poor Garrett's just gonna have to keep respawning. Actually, I'm gonna go closer to spawn so that you don't have to walk that much.
I'm not moving. Halt.
Okay, I almost have ultimate, so I'm not gonna have to kill you again, Garrett. It's all good. Should have probably went Roadhog so you could self-heal.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
You know.
But Bongo, of course, it has a very long range in effectiveness, as you can see. Pretty much as long as you're in line of sight, barely, with that center. Of course, it can get destroyed, which is a thing. It's pretty easy to destroy, so my suggestion is to not place it down willy-nilly. So if you're in the middle of the fight and you place it straight down in front of you, the thing is going to die very fast. The other thing that I see people do that I don't like either is putting down a shield and then behind, because people can still get through that shield and destroy the shield. It's just adding more hit points to it. In a pinch, it works pretty nice. Even pros do this. It's just kind of awkward. I like to put it around a corner, and then so if I was standing here defending, and of course Garrett, if you could act like you're walking in, and you would be walking in, I would put it down here and then stand here so that the Bongo at no point can have a problem. So you basically put the Bongo in a position where the other team has to go out of their way to do anything to it, which is pretty nice. Also, Orisa, let me give this a shot with Halt. It's kind of hard. Go ahead and charge across.
Not so fast.
So if you're fast enough, you're able to use Halt and pick him up just slightly. Very similar to Lucio's boop. It's might come along. It's not really something to plan on, honestly. But it's a thing.
Stop right there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pull people out of that. So it's just an idea. Okay, so any questions so far on basic stuff with Orisa? Oh, and her hitbox is massive. It is huge. But yeah. So let's see. I need a health pack.
Go ahead and fortify.
Huh? Why?
Do it.
No, just do it, dude. I'll reaction time. Come on. Of course, this is gonna be the time.
Hammer down.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. See, this is what reaction time is called, Garrett. It's kind of nice to have.
See, I don't have that, so I have to compensate somehow. You have to tell me when it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead into strategies. So
I'm not moving.
So
Systems repair.
So strategy time. Let me see. Kind of want. Hold on. I'm gonna switch you over to my team right now. What am I doing? Show lobby, not social. Swap to blue. Nope. Add AI. Go ahead and switch to soldier, if you would be so kind.
No, but Widowmaker's so great. Such a team player.
Widow's never not the option. Okay, so I added a AI to the other team. Okay, so one of the biggest strategies is, of course, the Orisa soldier combo. Hey! Perfect timing, Thesis. I did not see that, so this works out pretty well. So there's a couple of things. So if you are very comboed well with the soldier, this is basically, if there's a person that you've been playing a lot with and you know how to play well, a soldier and Orisa is perfect because they're both relatively long range shooters, as well as halt and rocket. So I'll go ahead and halt the Lucio, Garrett, and you'll rocket it. Don't shoot him, don't kill him, but halt. Yeah. So you can just combo that all day long. You right click, boom. You hit him with a rocket. Right click, boom. Hit him with a rocket. It works well because also you pull in everyone when you do that. And of course, the Orisa provides a shield, but she doesn't provide self-healing. Granted, soldier does. So if you put down your healing, boom, we both get healed. And it works pretty well. So you pretty much give the soldier an easy way out. The Lucio's behind you, by the way.
Stop right there.
But yeah, it's pretty nice. And you can see if we focus fire, we do a ton of damage. And if I hit a shot, we do a ton of damage.
And both of these characters are ranged as well. So it's a good combo.
The other side of it is, so I like putting them in the back line, and we'll cover the 2 lanterns comp, which utilizes this. And the idea is that if an ult comes down, the soldier can sprint away, and I can fortify. And so that's how we can survive in the back line. But it's a lot of focus fire, where they both have to act like one character. And that's pretty much the big thing. Is they have to... What the heck? There's a phone going off. Oh my god. That's hilarious. There's a phone in the room I'm recording in, which I did not expect. Well, sorry. So yeah, that's a lot of the things. And the next part, if you ult...
Clearly he's not going to answer it.
If you ult... Hold on. If you ult, boom, as I ult, then we basically... It's almost like a nano boost, almost, because you get the same damage buff that the soldier will get with a regular nano boost, and so you can really use that to effectiveness. Do a ton of damage. I believe this combo directly, if I remember right, I did the math a while ago, but you can destroy a Reinhardt barrier in, I believe, 6 seconds. If no, it was more than that. It was 4 seconds. It was not more than that. It was less than that. So you could destroy a Reinhardt barrier in 4 seconds, and that was if the team with the Reinhardt was playing a diva and had spent 2 seconds blocking.
Not so fast.
So a lot of this is the Orisa halts, boom, soldier hits. Also, backline ideas is you pair with either a Mercy or a Moira, and this is just to get healing in. The Moira can throw healing, because this comp is not going to be in the front line. So even if you're holding on the choke, these 2 guys will not be standing in the choke. And that's what the beauty of Orisa is, and that's why I say people don't play Orisa correctly, is because you can do this. You have the luxury of a mobile barrier. So we don't need to be up by the barrier. We just need to be back here, and we could also have a supplementary team up front getting use of that barrier, and that's where the 2 lanterns comp comes into play. But you see, we don't need this barrier, and he just realized, oh, I just need to get around the barrier, and then we just plop down another one, and then we kill him instantly. Boom. So having an inconsistent placement for the barrier is actually really good, as long as your team is aware. You can see we have that there. I put that there like so, because we don't want the barrier to get that much damage onto it, and so we only need this amount. And so if we're back just far enough, You see, we're a firing range. We can kill people as they run to us. And so that's a big idea as well. As this is an anti-dive idea of you create space, and that's what Orisa can do. Is you have a barrier up front with your team while the Orisa and Soldier are in the back line, and you're never going to run into a problem because the biggest counter to Orisa and how she's played right now is getting behind her barrier and getting around her, and she has to spin around and dance around her barrier, which is just unoptimal for her, because if you're attacking, all you have to do is just get behind the barrier and she's screwed. But if you have the barrier farther up, they can't get behind the barrier. Once they get behind the barrier, you just shoot them. Because once they get behind the barrier, then they still have to get to you. And that's why the Two Lanterns comp comes into play. For those who don't know what a Two Lanterns comp is it's either a dive or a semi-death ball. But it's a hybrid comp. It's a two-stage comp, which was a popular idea defense on Hollywood. And the main idea is you have, and it was originally before it was when the Mercy originally got brought out with her changes with Valkyrie and all that stuff, was when this comp was made, when Mercy was overpowered. And the idea was you would have a Mercy in the back. Then Moira came out, and Moira is a good change out for the Mercy. But the Mercy can be in the back. You have two safe res targets. Let's say if someone ults, the Orisa, boom, fortifies, and either doesn't die or just barely dies. And then the Soldier can either run away or is the one to die. And so the Mercy can just run to the other team and come back and heal you. So that was the idea, is it made it so that the Mercy was a lot safer. Because if you have, of course, like Reinhardt in the front and Orisa in the back, so to put into perspective, so Garrett stand here, boom. Let's say and this is just for a map overall, not necessarily this map, and a Reinhardt was right here with his barrier, you could have your barrier out front so that he can just use his barrier in case of emergencies. And of course, if the Mercy had a problem and was standing next to Garrett, who would be getting damage boosted and all that stuff, the Mercy could come to me and get out of the danger or heal and then go back. Whereas now the Moira can just send a healing orb or just dance in between. Likewise, you can have someone dance in between, which is pretty nice as well. So you can have like a Lucio dance in between each stage, because you have the first lantern, which is in the front, and the second lantern, which is in the back. You can also, interesting fact, is the barrier, and this, I'm going to start sounding stupid really quickly, and it's just because I'm going to make this as plain as day as possible. Your barrier is mobile. And so what's cool about it is if you have a dive team, you can have the Orisa and Soldier in the back line and kill the enemy team by just throwing the barrier, and now you have a... Oh, lasted too long. Oh, crap. Let's go ahead and create that again. But because of all of that, you can create like a Winston bubble with 900 hit points going with the Winston. And so the Winston can use his bubble in a different way or other stuff. I'm going to go ahead and do... Li Zhang New Year. Let's do that one. Let me get you in here. Social. But that's the big thing with the Orisa and this comp, is just that ability. It is pretty nice. There's a lot of... I'm still a firm believer that the Two Lanterns comp is actually meta. Just no one's playing it, which is kind of the bummer. Okay, that's a lie. People are playing it, but they're not playing it correctly. And it was when Widow started being good, and people are now switching out the original Orisa for a Widow, and they're standing behind the barrier that way. And they use that on Temple of Anubis, I do know, and... The difference, though, is that their placement of the barrier is right next to the Orisa, and they run into the same problems. And I believe LA Valiant picked up on a similar idea that runs with the Two Lanterns comp, and I think they're the only ones that have actually been slightly successful. And they've had a dive team out in front, where it was usually just a diva. And the diva created that space. Because the idea is you want to team out front, so as the enemies coming towards you, the dive team has a distance they need to dive. And what you try to do is you try to force them to, so that when they dive in between your front squad and the back squad. And what happens is then, since they dived, you can just shoot them as a firing range, and then your front squad can either push in towards their back line or turn around and just kill the squad. So it's kind of you force them into a dive, and then you just kill them. So it's a good anti-dive comp as well. Death Ball, it just kills because, of course, you have the Orisa barrier, and if you're running the Reinhardt or whatever, you can, of course, just get so much barrier health. The front line you can have, I believe the Death Ball version we have has Reinhardt in the front with an optional DPS tank role, and a Lucio. So we have like a Reinhardt, Lucio in the front, an Orisa, Soldier, and Mercy in the back. You can throw in a Junkrat that dances in between the two, or a Tracer that dances in between the two. We used to run a Tracer to do that. It was because we had a good Tracer player. Shout out to Andre. But you could also run a Roadhog in the front line. And Roadhog synergizes well with the Orisa as well. So that's good. And I say as well as a lot, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. You can also run a Diva in front with the Reinhardt. The dive version I have as Lucio, Diva, and Winston, and it's because the Diva actually has a good damage output to almost be a solo dive with the Winston and not have that much problem. The Lucio is just to help out there. So yeah, that's that comp. People are running her a lot more with Roadhog at the moment, so because they have the double CC with Halt and Hook. That combo's been fairly popular. Other things, trying to remember. Garrett, do you have any other things to add about Orisa? Oh, I remember one thing, but talk while you...
Well, basically just send out the shield. I mean, keeping the shield near the Orisa is just... It's ineffective. It's not very good. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And keeping the shields inconsistent. So you don't always want the shield to be always in the same spot. So if you have it here and they attack and go through, it's very similar to how Bastion gets countered so often, is because they come in and they go, oh, Bastion's around that corner, they pull out or they just die. And then they come back in and go, okay, we just go around the corner and focus the guy. When they go around the corner and they look, Bastion's gone and he's in another spot, and then they get killed again. This is a very similar idea, is they know where the shield is and that they have to get behind the shield. And once they do, then the Orisa's dead. But if you have it in front and they get past it and you put it just in front of them, they've just spent their resources getting past the barrier. Now they're in front of the barrier again and they die. And so that's if you play that very simply. But Orisa has problems when a team's jumping around them. So act like, Garrett, if you're attacking me as like a Tracer or something, and you're just kind of jumping around, I kind of have to jump around, and the barrier I have to kind of dance in between, and I have no self-healing, so it's kind of a panic moment for me. And that's why I do a lot better in the back line, is because at worst case scenario they get on me, but at the same time they have to go through so much junk to get to me. They have to go through most of my team to get in front of me. They have to get past the barrier to get behind me, and the Soldier is right there with a healing pad. I Fortify, I almost can't die. And by almost I mean there's some ways you can, but it's really hard to. And if you pair it with a Moira, total just destruction. Oh god, that was bad. But yeah, so there's all that stuff with Orisa. The other thing to cover is on King of the Hill maps, and there's a couple other maps you can do this. Get in practice of just throwing your barrier out of spawn. So you walk out of spawn, you do this. And you just kind of throw it in the direction you want to. Sometimes you can hit up there if you get good at it. This map is kind of bad, but if you get good at it, you can have a barrier presence in the middle of the battle while you're walking in. As you see, hey, we have the barrier back just as we get around the corner. And this happens with pretty much everything. It's a very free barrier, which is pretty nice. Free barriers are super nice, but I like that as well. But yeah, that's a big thing that other people don't do, is just throw the barrier out of spawn. And let's go ahead and...
You know, I think just throw in general. I think they really underestimate how far out that barrier can actually be thrown.
Mm-hmm.
And you can cut off a lot of choke points with that barrier if you just huck it way out there. And that mitigates a lot of pressure coming from the enemy.
And if the barrier doesn't get value, so what? You see, look, boom, right here. If someone was here, they could dance in between the barrier and perfect. That's why I like throwing this towards a dive team, is because then they can do the barrier, dance around, and just kill things, and they have so much easy of a time. And of course, as I walk around the corner, I get my barrier back. So it's super free. There's no reason why you shouldn't be just throwing it. And even if you don't get value, so what? But the possibility of getting value is big, and that's one thing as well. I think now, I think we're nearing the end. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask them. Other things that I find Orisa players doing. Oh, here's a good one. So I throw the barrier in front of me because I play Orisa regularly, and I realize I have to kill the enemy who's around the corner. So I step in front of the barrier and do that. That is a no-no, but I'm not saying that the act of going around to get the kill is bad. I'm saying the act of being in front of the barrier is bad. And so the problem is fixed not by just saying stay behind the barrier, but it's put the barrier farther forward into a further position than you're going to actually use it. So just get in the act of just doing this kind of stuff, of just throwing it and just letting it go. Because if he's like right around the corner, then I have to just I have to step here, but I'm still behind the barrier. Other things to keep in mind is you can stand like right here and still be poking out of the barrier, which is not as good. But yeah, so what you want to do is you want the barrier farther forward than you need it, and then you're good, because it gives you wiggle room to move forward. Because if you're moving out of your barrier, then you're kind of a sitting duck. I was getting shot by a Lucio. Huh. Oh, hey. So yeah. See? I can't... If I have my barrier here, I can't shoot him if he goes around that side. So I have to move forward. But if I have it here in the first place, I can just do this. And a good thing as well is get in the habit of halting people in front of the barrier. That's pretty nice as well. It's also good to pull people out of stuff, or if they're trying to get away, you halt them and pull them back. That's pretty good because, of course, it disorients them as well. So it's a pretty good thing. And honestly, a lot of the stuff we're talking about isn't a thing of trade this for that with Orisa. It really is a free stuff that you can do with Orisa that people just don't do. And so that's why, of course, we're making this video, and that's why our team plays this comp all the time. So that's pretty much the gist of it. A lot of theory crafting, and if you want more value out of the comp, you need to have a team that knows how to play it better. So getting practice into it is pretty good. It can still run very decent without practice. but
Yeah, we did do very well with this comp.
yeah. And of course you can shoot flying objects, which is another thing people don't realize is because she's projectile does not mean she doesn't counter Farah. She does because of two things. One, halt. Boom. You pull her together, you shoot. That counters Fire Mercy, as well as just the pure action of you have 150 bullets with this rate of fire. Eventually you'll hit the Farah. And that eventual damage is actually pretty big. One of the things that I constantly say is that Diva being able to damage at long range is pretty good because she gets free damage even though the damage is almost worthless. If there's no other reason, if basically she has no like downside of shooting, it's pretty good to shoot. And so you can just spray and hit the Farah. It's pretty nice. Even minimal damage, it'll wear on them. If you get consistent damage on her, it's pretty good. So I kind of consider her as really the only tank counter to Farah, which is pretty nice. Another thing with the comp is you don't want to be on the point as Orisa, because you want to be farther back, like right here. As well. Granted, you're a little close to the edge, so be careful with that kind of stuff. Because yeah, Fortify is not always there. It's kind of a thing of oh well, you can't. This isn't effective because of their ability that has an 8-second cooldown will just stop it. Well, yes, but the difference is that it isn't up all the time. And that's the difference. Okay, so full on taking questions. We're gonna wrap things up here. Anyone has any questions about Overwatch in general, not just Orisa? During that, let's do this. I'm just gonna add AI. One thing I would like to cover as well is talking about the Sombra changes. So, oh, and capture the flag, that as well. So we can cover that real quick while people might be asking questions. I'm saying might as a big word. If not, all good. So first of all, Sombra changes that accidentally went live. Kind of throws a kink to the Sombra strat, which is kind of shaky. Because it doesn't work anymore, the regular Sombra strat. And kind of, if people don't know what happened, when the new Overwatch event came out, they accidentally released a planned PTR version of Sombra. And so it's since been removed, and she's back to her old self. And it's meant to be a buff. And it is, if you're playing with a group that doesn't know how to deal with a Sombra and play with a Sombra. Her spread is 10% less. Of course, barrier. So it's 10% less of a spread, which you'll feel. You'll notice that pretty quickly. So that's pretty nice. But yeah, it's really good. And I'm already at 40%. Just want to mention that. But yeah, that's pretty much all that kind of stuff. Also, there's the whole drop like a rock mechanic that I call, where her hack now stops passive abilities, which is pretty nice. I really like that. Others is her hack takes 0.65 seconds to work, as opposed to the original 0.8, which is pretty nice. That's all good. So, there's that. And the biggest part is, of course, her ult, which now works a bit differently. You don't get ult charge. like you regularly do, which is kind of interesting. You don't get ult charge with your health packs, which is why the whole thing just doesn't work anymore. That's why her strategy behind her just doesn't work. So that's a big thing there. Is the strategy just kind of goes out the window. But it does open up possibilities in other strategies, like my fabled just assassin comp, which is pretty nice. The assassin comp is really nice. And how that works. That's the one I talked about, I believe, last time, where of course you have the team that's just based off of getting a pick. It is the most mobile team, comp, which works pretty well. That's nice to deal with. But yeah, you can see we just get like 3 kills.
I knew you could do it.
Other stuff. Yeah, so I did play with her, and the thing that I noticed, which was kind of interesting, was that the time to kill felt really nice. You actually felt like you were doing stuff with the gun, as opposed to pretending like you're doing stuff with the gun, which is pretty good. You can see how I stepped back there just to block that off. Feels very nice to do that, because they have to get around to shoot, which works pretty well. Okay, so that's the stuff with Sombra. I think she'll have a place in Assassin comp. The problem is now she has to almost directly compete with damage characters, because she loses some of her importance with her health packs. And so that's the big problem, is now she's going to be more damage based and utility based, which isn't bad. We'll see if it goes through. I kind of wish that they removed the cooldown on the, well, not the cooldown, but the animation for her getting out of her stealth and getting into her stealth. Kind of wish that they would fix that. You see, boom, free barrier right there. But yeah, the whole stealth deal is very interesting. You can see how I have the barrier out front, and I've put it a little bit closer to me. Super free. You don't need to deal with any of that stuff. But yeah, other thing is capture the flag, new map. Really like it. I like the new map that they added. I wish that that they take that map and add more to it and actually make it King of the Hill, because I really like that map. It would be super nice. I think it's almost built so it could be, and I kind of wish it is. Yeah, all that stuff's good. Lucio's broken. I'll say Lucio's like the best, which is kind of interesting, because he can still wall ride and speed boost. So if he's not the one carrying the flag, he can still speed boost. But if you are good at wall riding, it is just disgusting what you're able to do with speed boost. It's just absolutely disgusting, because you can just wall ride everywhere, and so that's it's kind of clunky. Well, it's not clunky, it's just annoying. So yeah, that's the stuff with Lucio. Otherwise, pretty nice.
Stop right there. Triple kill. Exceeding standard performance metrics.
See how it's like a firing range? Time to kill is so fast.
You are advised to move behind my barrier.
So that's all the stuff with that. We have any questions? No, we don't have any questions. So I think we'll finish off this map and then call it a day. Unless, Garrett, if you have any...
No.
Barrier activated.
Okay. Big thing with Orisa is to get the throw down perfectly.
Standing ground. You're not getting away. For your safety, please move behind the barrier. Not so fast. Cease your resistance. Stop right there.
There we go.
You are advised to move behind.
You're covered.
There we go. Okay. So, believe that's it then. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. Follow if you want instant notifications that we're going live. Might go live for other stuff that isn't serious, just goofing around or playing some games. Always welcome for people to join. Of course, I have my YouTube channel that's going to have this, so if you are watching it on whatever, you can end up watching on YouTube, watching on Twitch, all that stuff. All of these are on YouTube in a playlist, so you can watch them there if you've missed any. But other than that, I think we're signing off. So everyone, thanks for watching, and see ya. Bye.